Hi, Pastor Nathan Decker with your hashtag Better Together devotion for today. If you know anything about the prophet Elijah, you probably have heard about the great contests of the gods. This great contest that's in chapter 18 of the book of First Kings, in which Elijah comes out after it has been a 3 years of drought, after the drought has gone on and on and on. He comes out and tells Ahab, to gather all the prophets of Baal. Baal was a child sacrificing worship, from what we gathered from the scriptures, and it was competitor, if you will, of the worship of Yahweh, of God that we know of, from the Old Testament. And one of the things that happens here is that this great contest takes place in which they gather up on a mountain and they gather a whole bunch of people around them, and the text says all of Israel, and there's this contest, and they lay out offerings. And Elijah says, "You go first. You build the altar, put lots of wood there. The only thing I don't want you to do is I don't want you to light it. I want Baal himself to light the fire." And the prophets try their hardest. They pray, they offer themselves as sacrifices, they bleed because they cut themselves. They do all sorts of dances and things like that. Think rain dances. They do all kinds of things, and nothing happens. And of course, the story flips to Elijah doing the very same thing, except Elijah builds up the altar and puts 12 stones there, one for every tribe of Israel. And then he puts the wood on there, and then he puts the sacrifice on there, and then he digs a trench around it, and he pours water onto the offering until the trench just is overflowing with water. Lord knows in the drought where they found so much water, but do you hear how this is an extravagant offering? Remember, 3 years of drought, and now we're pouring lots and lots of water just out on the ground on an altar. It's a huge offering of sacrifice, a great deal of sacrifice. And then once it's been overflowing through this, once it's wet enough to where it's not possible for it to ever catch fire, Elijah prays, and fire from heaven comes down and devours every aspect of the offering. Not a drop of water is left. And it's at that point that the people of Israel make this choice. They choose to follow God. They seize the prophets of Baal, and rain begins to fall from the heavens. Rain begins to fall from the heavens. The drought is over. I think from this story, many times we gather all kinds of lessons. But the one that I want to focus on today is the lesson of choosing God. Simply saying, as for me and my house, to borrow the line from the book of Joshua, I'm going to follow God. I'm going to do what I can to follow God. There are lots of different traditions and theologies out there, many of which ask us to have sacrifice, that ask us to somehow coax God into sacrifice. Notice that Elijah doesn't have to do that. God is ready and willing to receive the offering that we give. Not because we've cut ourselves or sacrificed a child, but simply because we prayed and we've laid ourselves down to Him. Simply because we've said to God, God, I choose you. I choose you today. I choose you in my walk. I choose you in my conversations. I choose you in my behaviors. I choose you in who I'm going to be. Today in your prayers, pray and ask God to help you to choose God, to choose His ways, to choose His will, to choose to follow Christ no matter where He's going. When you do, I'm sure you'll find it'll make you better together. Amen.